Shadaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shadaitam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sadhana Lalita Sri Vishakhanitanstam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Prasannatma, Balaram, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandas pranams to you too.
Krishna, Prabhuji, let me spotlight you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. We welcome all of you for the today's morning program, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, and today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Prasannatma Balaram Prabhu, and he will enlighten us on Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 13th chapter, and the text 18. Over to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So thank you so much. Dandas pranams to all the devotees. You don't know about enlightenment. I'll just try to repeat what I've heard. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Mande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So, Prabhu, I'll try to share one second. Just let me know if you all are able to see the screen.
Yes, Prabhuji. We can see.
One second. Yes.
On the top and bottom, there are black screens, maybe. Okay, it's fine, Prabhuji, no problem anyway.
It's okay, I think, now.
Yes.
Okay, so today we are looking at Canto 5, Chapter 13, Verse 18. So verse 18 is like this. Dhrumeshuram syan sutadhara vatsalo vyavayadhino vivasa svabhandane kvachit pramadhad girikandare patan valim grihitva gajabita astitaha. Dhrumeshuram syan sutadhara vatsalo Vyavayadhino vivasa svabhandane Kvachit pramadad girikandare patan Valim grihitva gajabita astitaha. So the word-to-word meaning, the synonyms is like this. Dhrumeshu, in the trees, or in houses standing like trees in which monkeys jump from one branch to another. Ramsyan, enjoying. Sutadhara Vatsalaha, being attached to the children and wife. Vyavaya Dinaha, who is poor-hearted because of acting on the platform of sex desire. Vivasaha, unable to give up. Swabhandane, in the bondage to the reactions of one's own activities. Kvachit, sometimes. Pramadhat, from fear of imminent death. Girikhandare, in the cave in a mountain. Patan, falling down. Valim, the branches of a creeper. Grihitva, capturing. Gajabitaha, being afraid of the elephant of death. Astitaha, remains in this position. Translation. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. When the living entity becomes exactly like a monkey, jumping from one branch to another, he remains in the tree of household life without any profit but sex. Thus, he is kicked by his wife, just like the he-ass. Unable to gain release, he remains helplessly in that position. Sometimes he falls victim to an incurable disease, which is like falling into a mountain cave. He becomes afraid of death, which is like the elephant in the back of that cave, and he remains stranded, grasping at the twigs and branches of a creeper. So, purport. The precarious condition of a householder's life is described herein. A householder's life is full of misery, and the only attraction is sex with the wife who kicks him during the sexual intercourse, just as the she-ass does her mate. Due to continuous sex life, he falls victim to many incurable diseases. At that time, being afraid of death, which is like an elephant, he remains hanging from the twigs and branches of the tree, just like a monkey. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschayata Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So Prabhu, is my voice okay, audible?
Yes, Prabhu, very clear.
Thank you.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you so much. So this particular shloka, what is the essence we will try to see. We'll also try to see the context, how this conversation is moving forward. And we'll also try to see why this monkey kind of life is being preferred over progress in devotional service. That's what is coming out here so clearly. We'll try to see what the Bhagavatam is saying in other places and how Srila Prabhupada is in his purports giving examples to help us understand this situation. This is a situation that is there for every one of us. And then we will hopefully try to get some good points which we can keep in mind and then help us steer clear of such situations. So that's how we will try to take this discussion for today. So before we get started, so I'm just seeking the blessings of all the Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, all seniors who are here. Kindly bless me so that I'll be able to do some justice to this wonderful verse, doing this as a service for the pleasure of the Lordships, as a service to the Guru Parampara, and for my own purification. Hare Krishna. So Dhrumeshu Ramsyan Sutadhara Vatsalo Vyavaya Dhino Vivasa Swabandhane Kvachit Pramadhat Girikandare Patan Malim Grihitva Gajabita Stitaha. So here, actually, if you look at, just for the continuity's sake, if you look at the previous verse where it is very clearly, we saw yesterday how a living entity wants to get out of this material world, and then or he wants to give up certain activities, sinful activities, and then he wants to progress or advance. But then he is not able to do so because there are many cheaters who take this person away. It's like you want to go to a certain place, a certain destination, but then there is somebody who poses as a guide or as an agent to help you, but then he ends up taking you somewhere else. It's like I think 10, 15 years back, there was this craze to go to Dubai, and then people used to jump into I mean, if you take an unauthorized way of jumping into a boat in the middle of the night, and then the fellow promises that he will take you across and then drop you off in Dubai, and then you will have to fend for yourself there or find your way there. But then they realize that they actually are not, the destination, not Dubai. They go around and then they put you back in another same coastal India only somewhere, and then they take the money and disappear. So in this way, there are cheaters, and then people get cheated. So Prabhupada very nicely concludes, as long as there are people who want to get cheated, there will be cheaters. So as long as there are people who want to get cheated, there will be cheaters. So in the same way, here also, people pose as swamis, fake swamis, and then they try to extract money or whatever from them, and then try to leave you in the same position, if not in a worse position. Mostly it is in a worse position than you were before. So that's the situation. And then realizing the futility of all of this, if by chance somebody is coming into an association of a devotee, still that person is not able to continue. Even if they come to the right place, they are not able to stay in this right place for a long time. And then the follow through is that this particular verse where it says, then they go back. When the living entity becomes exactly like a monkey jumping from one branch to another, after it goes back to its tree, then they go back to this tree swinging. So why does this tree swinging happen? They don't want to give it up. So that's what we are seeing here. And sometimes, when we are going through these shlokas, we might sometimes think in our minds, I mean, these verses are so harsh. They are so strong. It might look very extreme, like the wife is being described as a jackal, the children are described as hyenas, and the senses are described as plunderers, thieves, rogues, whatnot. All the bad elements or the components are being linked to the common day-to-day things or the people with whom we interact and so on and so forth. So it might look very, very extreme and harsh. But such comparisons or such analogy is actually needed. Now, if you look at in one of the lectures I was listening, where Maharaj was saying that it is needed because if you look at the way this conversation is proceeding, it's between Jadabharata and King Raghughana. So this is a very lengthy conversation, if you see. In fact, we are in the 13th chapter, but this discussion actually starts off from the 10th chapter itself. The 10th chapter is titled as Discussions between Jadabharat and Raghughana, King Raghughana. So where he is not carrying him properly and then he's chastising him and so on and so forth. So it's a small incident, but then there's a lot of description that is happening there. And then if you come to the next chapter that is titled as Jadabharat instructs King Raghughana. So there is discussion, there is instruction. Then the next chapter, chapter 12, which is conversation between Maharaj Raghughana and Jadabharata. So there are 3 full chapters that are dedicated. And now we've come to the next chapter, which is the 13th chapter, which is again titled as Further Talks Between King Raghughana and Jadabharata. So there is conversation that is happening. And then there are talks that have happened. There is some knowledge that has got transferred. But then King Raghughana is asking for more explanation. So Jadabharat realizes that the king is having the knowledge, but then he is clinging on to something. He is still not convinced. He is not able to leave the premise of material enjoyment and come out because he is a king. So those bonding is very, very strong. All this enjoyment for sensual pleasures are so strong that he is not able to come out. So it's like trying to yank him out, like pull him out forcefully. He's just clinging on so strongly. So that time then it becomes imperative to give certain analogies which are very harsh, strong, repulsive, so on and so forth, Like Prabhupada also does not mince his words when he's really trying to drive home a point. He says like the worm, we are all like the worm in the stool. So the stool is so repulsive. But then the worm, if you take out the worm from the stool and then leave it a little far away, it again crawls back to that stool. So it's like, if somebody has to visualize it, it's so repulsive it is. But then that is how we are, and that is how in this material world we keep going back to the stool or to the material enjoyment. Here, it is compared to the forest. And in fact, if you look at the next chapter, chapter 13, it says material world as the great forest of enjoyment. So there again, this analogy of forest and then comparison to the material world is going to continue. And then the forest means then it has so many wild animals, and then the references to the people whom we interact with, to wild animals, to jackals, to thieves. You also have thieves, plunderers in the material world, in the forest. So the material world is like that. So no wonder even in English they say it's a jungle out there. Yeah, it is a jungle out there, but then many people interpret it as a concrete jungle and so on and so forth. No, this is how it should be interpreted, where it says very clearly that there are so many dangers. Pad vipadham. So every step there is a danger, and we are courting danger, and then we are being swept away, but still we continue to hang on. How is this hanging on? Anything that we are able to grasp, we try to hang on, grasping the twigs, the branches of a creeper. We know they are not strong enough to hold us, but then we just try to grab that and then hang on there. We don't want to give up that particular position. So in this way, we don't allow ourselves to be controlled by the forces of nature, in the sense or the forces of, or the influence of time, like how we get old, disease, death, change of body. So we don't want to accept all these things. We just we become afraid, and then we cling on. And here we are compared to the monkeys, go back to the branch and then continue to do this tree swinging. So these very strong or harsh analogy or comparison is put in purpose there, so that we understand how abominable it becomes, and then we then try to get out of this particular position. So now, if we look at another instance, actually here what has happened, this particular example or the flow in which it is going, there is this instance where the person has gone to other other swamis or monkey who are like monkeys, means the cheaters. And then he has realized the futility. Then he has come back, and then by chance he has also got in touch with devotees. But then he is not able to carry out the instructions of the spiritual master or the devotee association. He is not able to maintain, and then he comes back. So this is a very precarious situation, and that's what is being brought out here. So now, if you look at this, why is it that somebody is not able to stay or continue to be there after realizing all of it, after going through everything? It's like a child, the child knows that because I ate something which I like say chocolates or whatever it is, ice creams, then I had a problem. My health was upset. I could not go to school. I suffered. I was coughing. I had fever, etc., etc. So that the memory is there. Then at that point when the memory is there, the child decides, and it takes a sankalpa kind of a thing, saying that I will not get into this trap again. I will not eat, or even if I'm eating, I'll follow instructions. I'll listen to my father, because my parents so nicely told me not to do it, but I did it. And then now I've landed into a problem where I'm suffering so much. So this is there. But then after it gets well because of the medicine or whatever, and then after over a period of time, it forgets. And then again, it starts to indulge. So now most of the time, or all the times, we are also like that when it comes to indulgence of our senses, indulgence of material activities. So we are also exactly like this child, because we realize, we know, it's not that we don't know, but we know it. But then still we go back. We go back to the tree swinging like this monkey. Now, why is this happening? So that's the question. In fact, I think that's a question that should come to our minds, because we know it is bad, and then we get kicked again and again, but then still we keep going back. So the analogy here is to the donkey. So you go behind the donkey, it keeps kicking you, but still you try to go. So this kind of association is so stupid, I mean, something that you would not like to be associated with, but still we associate with. So it pulls us back. That is because the pull of material attachment is so strong that whatever happens, even when we go through all of this, we realize it, but still we get pulled back because we are in the body. As long as we are in this body, then there is this craving or this propensity to enjoy remains through the senses, using the senses. Now, this actually is not a very good situation. Because we need the body. As long as we're in the body, then it's going to happen. Then is there going to be a solution? What about Jivan Mukta kind of a situation? We've heard that word, right? Jivan Mukta is somebody who is already liberated even in this material body. And Krishna has very nicely explained Dhridavrata, or a person who is Dhira, who's not disturbed by material things. How does he walk, talk, eat, sleep? All of that we have seen. And then we are aware of all of that, but then we are not able to actually practice. So because our attachment or our conditioning is so strong that how much ever we try, then we are not able to get back. So we'll have to picturize ourselves as stools or worms in the stool, where we keep going back to that stool again and again. Even when somebody is trying to pick us out, doing the difficult task of picking us out of the stool and putting us in fresh place, but still we go back there. So that's there. And then even Parikshit Maharaj, actually, in another chapter in the Bhagavatam, he says, he's asking, why does this happen? Is there any meaning to this prayaschit? Because there is some amount of prayaschit. You know that you've done some sinful activity, or you've gotten, so you try to atone for it. But then that atonement doesn't seem to work, because you again end up doing the same thing. So why does this happen? So for that, then actually, Prabhupada very nicely in the purport, he is mentioning that this particular atonement is not complete atonement. And then he gives this example of a person who is sick. And then he says that how a person who's sick, who takes medicines, can fall sick again if they are not vigilant, if they are not taking care of themselves. Now, this taking care of themselves, what is that? So you'll know, like, I mean, it's very easy for a disease to relapse, or some infection to relapse, like typhoid or any of these things. So one has to actually guard oneself. As the cure is happening, you'll see the instructions that are coming in are such that it doesn't relapse again. So they'll say, continue this or do whatever. I mean, so they don't want that relapse to happen, because it becomes more severe when there is a relapse that is happening. So most of our situation is also like that. Every day we fall into relapse. We make in the morning, Brahma Muhurta time, chanting everything, and then we want to actually lead a life which we have understood very well. But then as the day progresses, then we get into arguments, fights, we judge people, we do all these small things, or even big things like picking up a quarrel. And I mean, many things happen in our day-to-day life, which is not a very good thing. And then towards the night, then we realize, if we are thinking back at how the day went through, then we realize there are mistakes that I have made, and then you feel very sorry about it. And then again, the next day morning, then we again start that, okay, from tomorrow, I'll not get into that. And then again, the same thing happens. So this relapse is happening continuously for us. But then the only way that we'll have to actually guard ourselves against the relapse. And Prabhupada is mentioning, or in fact, Sukadev Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj, I think that's coming in the 6th canto, the very first chapter, where he says that the only way that you can remain aloof is by doing austerity. Now, austerity, and then how is that connecting to this? So we know sadhana bhakti is all about austerity. So Prabhupada has given us this austerity. What are the basic things of the sadhana bhakti? The tenets are chanting the 16 rounds and following the 4 regulative principles. But then this particular aspect has to be done in the right perspective. So now what is that perspective that we are talking about? It's like this. See, now the person who's falling sick or the chance of a relapse is there, that person becomes more careful. He or she is extra careful to ensure that he doesn't do the things which landed him into that trouble in the first place. So they'll try to quarantine themselves or keep aloof or not continue certain things even they want to do it. So there is a lot of austerity that is there. Even though they are feeling fine, everything is all right, they know they can consume certain things, but still they try to abstain from it because they realize that if I do that, I'm still not fully cured. I might get back that particular infection or that disease. So they are more careful. So now what is happening here? There is tapas, there is austerity. What is the meaning of austerity? Austerity means to willingly take some discomfort, to deny ourselves, to willingly do that. So, and that is what we are doing here in the case of the sickness, the example that we are seeing, where we try to abstain from things in spite of that craving, in spite of ourselves. So we willingly taking some discomfort and then moving away. In the same way, we will have to do this tapas, not about just about chanting the 16 rounds and following the regulative principles. These are things we'll have to do anyway. This is all the pravritti or the things that we have to do, but there are those don'ts. So we'll have to concentrate on our don'ts. That is the nivritti mark, or giving up bad association, giving up certain kind of situations that we are in, staying clear of it, not getting into arguments, not trying to attach too much to some results, and these kind of activities we will have to do willingly. I mean, it's not necessary that we'll have to do all of it. Each one of us have a certain weakness, that the most weakest one we'll have to concentrate on. Thereby we will get some maximum gains. There's this 80-20 rule. Okay, we have a whole list of anarthas, but there are these top 5-6 which will contribute to our 70-80% of the intensity of that the suffering that is there. So if you are able to take those and then try to address them, then you get some good gains. So whereas we'll never be able to make it zero, the anarthas are always going to be there, but the intensity will keep coming down. But then if you look at the top 4, 5, or 1 or 2, even 1 is okay, then we will know, and then move on to the next, and then the next, and the next. So like this, we will have to keep ourselves, that vigil has to be there. And that is what Sukadeva Goswami is saying as, there has to be atonement, but that atonement has to be with knowledge. Prayaschitam Vishuddham. Vivashuddham. 1 second, let me just get that. Vimarshanam, sorry. So it is called as Prayaschitam Vimarshanam. So what is Vimarshanam? Vimarshanam means full knowledge of Vedanta. That is being Krishna conscious. What is full knowledge of Vedanta? Vedanta Krit Vedavid Eva Chaham. So we know in that Vedaisya Sarvai Rahameva Vedyo. So Krishna. So knowing about Krishna is full knowledge of Vedanta. And then you do Prayaschitam with full knowledge of Krishna. So that becomes repentance at its best. So because otherwise all the other repentances, there could be some repentances in the material platform. You feel sorry, oh, I did something wrong for that individual, I shouldn't have done. So that is, he is also, there are certain various levels of repentance. You might feel really sorry for that person, but then the repentance is complete when it is done with vimarshanam, or with complete knowledge of Krishna. So one has to come to this platform of Krishna consciousness. While we continue to do the prayashchitam, then, or the repentance, it becomes more complete. And when that happens, then this kind of fall down that Parikshit Maharaj was talking about does not happen, or you don't keep going back to it. Even if you go back, you're not like beyond yourself, you're not dragged back into it. You don't get beyond myself. I want to do, but I'm not able to do. Like we often hear people say that, right? So that does not happen because our mind, or Krishna consciousness is there in the mind. The intelligence is working in the Krishna Prajna level. So the support of Krishna is there. The mercy of Krishna is there, so that then we are able to control the particular urge or the senses in a way that it doesn't, put us in any more trouble. So, in fact, Parikshit Maharaj says that this thing of getting back to falling back again and again is like the elephant bath, the Hathi Snan. So I think that analogy will help us remember. So elephant goes into the river, has a bath, comes out, and then it takes the mud and then it throws it on its body. So we are also like that. We go, we try to cleanse ourselves of all our sins or all the wrong things that we have done, and then come out and then again do more of it. So this is actually, in fact, we might be chanting, we are doing all of that. So this is like compared to this, the offense that is there, nama bal, on the strength of the name, doing sinful activities, it relates to that. But we are doing that not because we want to do it, but then beyond ourselves, we don't want to do it, but still we end up doing it. This is a very helpless situation. And that situation is happening because we are not having the complete knowledge. And that knowledge of Krishna, or we are not completely Krishna conscious. So that is why even if there is atonement, then that atonement becomes useless, because we will again do the same mistake. And that's there. I mean, Prabhupada gives various examples. So we know the other religions, there is this confession that happens. So people just go confess and then they say, okay, you're excused. And then it's just done as an activity. It's like a ritual. You just do that atonement. Okay, prayashchit I have done, it's over. Now I am free. No, then again we can do the same thing. Unless there is atonement, unless there is improvement in the knowledge, in the understanding, where will this stop? Otherwise, it will keep on happening. Even in our scriptures, there are many prayashchits that are suggested for certain sins or wrongs that a person has done. But that, if we are just doing it as an activity, okay, for this, you give some cow in sacrifice, or you feed some 10 brahmanas, something they might prescribe. And you just do it for the sake of doing it, then it is not going to help. Why it is not going to help is because that particular activity, Sukadev Goswami is saying, that activity which is being done to neutralize an impious action is also fruitive in nature, because you want to neutralize an impious action. So it becomes fruitive. So because that activity, which is that prayashchit or that ritualistic activity, is done with some fruitive mentality, so there will not be a release from the tendency to act fruitively, because it's a fruitive activity. So there is some results you're expecting. So anything that we do with some expectation of result, then it's not going to give us a permanent solution. It might free us from that particular thing, but it will not give us a guarantee that we will not repeat it again. So now if we don't have to repeat it again, which is the intelligent thing to do, because we'll realize that, I can't keep doing this again and again. That's not a good situation. So the only thing is to do it in a more permanent way. And for that, then we will have to come to Krishna consciousness. So this is actually aligning to, even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is talking about how there is this aspect of, in 2.44, no, Vishaya Vinivartante Niraharasya Dehinam Rasavarjam Rasopiyasya Param Drishva Nivartate. So it says that even though you give up certain activities or certain kinds of enjoyment, but the taste still remains with us. And because that lingering taste is there, then it can surface up anytime. Some situations, it can come up, and then we will end up doing that same thing. Or even if it is playing in the mind, then our mind is occupied with that, with that particular rasa. And keeping the mind occupied in that particular rasa is as good as physically enjoying that rasa, because what happens? Our mind is not in Krishna consciousness. So it's like Prabhupada gives this example, which is better? Like you have people who are in the city, there is somebody who's thinking of the Himalayas and then meditation and all of that, like austerity. He wants to do all of that, but then he's stuck in this city life, but then his mind is dwelling on all those things. So that is happening. Then another situation where actually a person who's in that situation, like who's in the Himalayas and then who's not perturbed by the material actions or the all these kleshas. No, he's not affected by Adi Bhautika and all of that. But then what happens? He is thinking of the life in city. And then while he's sitting for meditation in Himalayas, he's thinking of the city life. So now actually who's in a better position actually? I mean, both are not good, but then comparatively, at least the person who's in the city, even though he's in the midst of all that, he wants to get out. So at least in his mind, he has this intense desire to get out. Whereas the other person, even though he has that facility, he's already been put in that place where he should move further, but then he is moving backwards because his mind is filled with such thoughts and memories. So unless that mind is made, it is rebooted. I mean, it is all cleared, and then thoughts of Krishna is put in there, this thing will continue. So that is why here, it aligns. It says that we will have to think of Krishna and then continue or further progress from there. Otherwise, then we will again go back. So we will not be able to hold our position there. We will start drifting back. It is like when I mean, people who are swimmers or who do swimming in the rivers, they'll understand there is a flow, a particular direction in which the river is flowing, and now you have jumped into that river. Now you have to remain in a certain position there. So you'll have to put in some effort, because if you relax, then you'll be swept by that current. It'll take you downstream. So if you have to remain in that position, also you will have to put in a lot of effort. And that effort that's how it is. I mean, that's what material life is also like that. The moment you relax, then you'll suddenly be swept. If the current is so strong that 10 meters you'll be swept downstream. But there is another interesting thing that happens, while physically these things we might panic and all that, and then we'll try to get out. But when it comes to leading our lives and then getting back to material things, our mind keeps tricking us. It's like sometimes, it says, I mean, that's okay. I know what's happening. I can handle it. I mean, it's just that. It's like, I just skirt along, I'll come off. I know, I mean, I can control it. I mean, I know what's happening. These are some of the things, the mind tells us. And then, it tries to justify the aspect that, even though I'm not in a very good situation, I know what I'm doing is wrong, but still I try to say, no, I know, but I didn't mean it, or we try to justify it in many ways. That is very, very dangerous, because we still think we are controllers by saying that I will handle it, I can take care, I know, don't worry, all of this, that means that we are controllers. But then there is no surrender there again. So if there is no surrender, then we know what happens. So that is why we should have the intelligence to know when we'll have to stop thinking and then act, or listen and act, not use too much of our thinking prowess or powers or the faculty, and then depend completely on it, because that's not going to help us. Because you will know. I mean, it's like flying. You will have to, you're going to the airport, and then you will have to fly. So you will have to use your intelligence, and then it's a big airport. There are so many planes and all that. So you'll have to use your intelligence to know that you're boarding the right plane. And then but once you are boarded, then even if you don't know how to drive a plane or fly a plane, it's all right. You just sit and then surrender to the pilot, to the airline, and then, it'll take you to the destination. And then you land there safely, everything is fine. So in this way, we should know when we'll have to stop using our intelligence, or stop depending on our intelligence, which is anyway contaminated, because we have a material body. So there is a limitation. So we'll have to know that. And then we'll have to surrender at the right place, in the right direction, and surrender to the right personality. So we'll have to surrender to the Guru, to the Parampara, to Krishna, to Guru, to Parampara, to senior Vaishnavas, and then sometimes just follow instructions. So it is so much safer if we just follow instructions, thereby not allowing our mind to think of justifications for not doing, not allowing our mind to think of justifications for tweaking it a little bit, or for cutting some corners. This is how Maya tricks us. It slowly creeps in, like a little bit, small adjustment I'll do. That small adjustments become a big variation over a period of time without us realizing it. So this is how seemingly small things, but then it is actually dangerous, because Material world is like that, and Maya Shakti is like that. So Maya is always out to, I mean, it's acting. We are in this material body, so the influence of Maya is always there. So we should be aware of it. It's like that person who's driving, you might have put in so many hours of years of driving, like say 20, 25 years of driving, Prabhu, but I've not had a single accident. Very nice, very good. But does that mean that the next 1 kilometer or the 10 kilometer you can drive with your eyes closed? No, how much ever expert you are, but still you have to be vigilant, and you'll have to drive in the moment. You'll have to take the right decisions every time. That is when then you will avoid accidents, right? The driving is like that. You can't take refuge of the fact that I have not done any accident and all, becoming overconfident and trying to do. I mean, no, that's not right. So you don't do that. So the moment you close your eyes, then you can get into trouble. So if you're not vigilant, that is. So in this way, these small examples, day-to-day examples will help us understand how we accept all this. But then when it comes to spiritualism, then we try to cut corners. So we should be more vigilant. It is much more serious than driving a vehicle without crashing. Because if by chance you crash, you fall, you get a scratch, physically you might be inconvenienced for some time, but otherwise you can recoup and then you can get on. But this crash is even more dangerous. So it will, because some of these aparats that we end up doing, it sets us back so much that it's like you try to reach a destination, but then somebody is putting you back. They're putting you back to a place which is even behind where you started from. It's like say, let us say you want to go to Mangalore from Bangalore and you're heading west, but then you do certain things that you end up reaching Chennai, or you put back there. So you will have to travel more distance to reach to Mangalore, so like that. Just an analogy, an example which will help us understand how we allow ourselves to be put in a place which is much worse off than we were before because of this approach. So we'll have to be very careful, and then we'll have to drive with constant vigil. Every step there is a danger, and then we'll have to do it. Does that mean that we'll have to be paranoid? Yes, it is good to be paranoid, because then we will not take Maya lightly. Prabhupada always says the only thing that I'm very much worried is my devotees, they don't consider, or they don't give, they're not afraid of Maya. Because so much of assurance is given by Prabhupada, they're not afraid of it. So it's not like that. We will have to exercise caution. Otherwise, the free will is always there. So because of this free will, we will have to make those choices. We will have to be cautious. We'll have to be vigilant so that we don't end up taking the wrong step. And even if we are taking the wrong step, and then if we are not fully into it, there is a scope for us to come back, then depend on the others to spot it out and then come out of it. So like this, each one will have to help the other and then take it forward. So otherwise, we will be like those monkeys, go back and then swing. Because this hanging on is very important. Sometimes, they might say, oh, I mean, hanging on there in ISKCON, what is there and not done. But then we should also understand that the very fact that this person is hanging on there, he may not do something positive, he may not be very active in preaching or any of those other things that are expected of a devotee. But then he's doing his sadhana and then he's there. So that itself is a big thing. It's like staying in the same place in that current which is trying to take you away. So you need some effort there also. So we'll have to acknowledge that. Though, I mean, it is not, we should not remain there. But then if a person is remaining there, then we cannot condemn that person. So because it takes so much of an effort to remain there. Otherwise, very quickly, because Maya is so strong that we might go back. And going back again is something that, that the current becomes so strong that it's like reaching Chennai if we have to go to Mangalore. No, and we'll have to come all the way again. And then we'll have to, it becomes that much more struggle. And we don't know how many more births we'll have to take, and so on and so forth. And it may not be so conducive. We know all of those. So in this way, this situation, this explanation, though it looks so harsh and intense, but then it is so valid for each one of us. And especially for people who are grihasthas, and who are actually interacting with the material world, where the interaction with the material world is even more. It's not like you're in a protected environment. You're going out, you're in the battlefield. You might get bruised, you might get hit, you might step on a landmine and then you might get blown. So you might have some things you might experience, some lot of discomfort and pain. But then we will have to take precaution, and then we will have to be aware and then watch carefully where we put our step, and then go in that way. And then for that, the best way to move forward, even in the army, they do that. They don't go individually, they go as a team, each one looking at the other and then taking instructions. You see, I mean, you might have seen in some movies and all that, like they say, that's how they move forward, right? They are ever vigilant. They look here and there, and then they see what the other person is doing, and then together they move forward. So that's very, very important. That's how cautious we have to be, because we are in Maya and we are actually interacting with Maya every day. So there's a good chance that we might get swept off. So this is what, in fact, the aspect of the sadhana, or just trying to do what we have to do, that itself is like staying there, not being swept away. That is what Prabhupada is saying. Just do the 16 rounds and then follow the 4 regulative principles. Is just being there. You have to do that rigorously, and then you have to do that sadhana. You have to do that austerity, and that is what it's Sukadeva Goswami is also saying, where tapasya and austerity becomes very important. And when we do tapasya and austerity, we don't ask questions, because there is this element of surrender there in tapasya and then in austerity. At this point, I have to get up, means I have to get up, and I have to come here, I have to do here. If I have to finish my japa at this time, I have to finish. Maybe the quality may not be that great, but at least those actions we are doing, and those actions will not allow Maya to enter in. And that's what Prabhupada is guaranteed. In fact, Prabhupada used to say, he used to keep all his disciples so busy, morning till night. It is like morning Mangalarti, then immediately, then, they had their own schedule. So go for book distribution, you do the book distribution all through the day. So you're always associating with Krishna, with books of Krishna, with the deity of Krishna in the Mangalarti, then chanting, and all of that. And then eating, also then eating only prasadam. And then you come late in the night to the temple, and then you're so tired physically that you just sleep off. There's no time to even think of anything else. And then again, next morning, you are getting up again at 3, so that you are there in the right time at the right place. So this particular sadhana will actually help us. It's not giving us any time, will actually not help us to think also, because this thinking it's the thinking with improper knowledge. It's not that intelligence which is not, it's not vyavasayatmika buddhi. It is regular materialistic buddhi only. So then we will think of all other things. Okay, one day I can relax. So much I have done. So this one day I will take off. No, it's not like that. It sounds a little harsh, but then that's how at least we should think in our minds, and then give it the importance, so that if we give it the importance, then it will protect us. So like, what is that? Dharmo rakshita rakshitaha, they say, right? If you protect, or if you give the due to the dharma, then it will protect you. So in that way, if we give the due for the sadhana, the importance in our minds, respect the sadhana and try to do it, then it will protect us definitely, by helping us not think of all this. And that is how the mercy is flowing. All this is not because of our sadhana. It is basically because of the mercy. So because we are making this effort, then Krishna recognizes it, and then his mercy flows to us through the parampara, through the guru, or through some other Vaishnava. Somehow we'll be in situations where it is not so difficult, and then somehow we are able to cross over. So actually Krishna is carrying us, but we are not realizing it. We think it's our effort, and that actually sets us back each time. So many things in the mind, but then it comes back to the same thing again and again. And that is why it is always good to keep our mind fixed. We might say the same thing again and again, but we are trying to keep our mind fixed to it. And that will definitely help us. And keeping our mind fixed is also sadhana. It is tapasya, because it's not easy to keep our mind fixed. AK here, there's only a person who is not in Krishna conscious. For him, his mind is bahushaka, but otherwise it is AK hai Guru Nandana. So like this, we can understand how it becomes so important for us to fight this battle in the mind and win. But we can't win it on our strength. We'll only be able to win it with the mercy of Krishna. And mercy of Krishna is there. Only thing is we don't take it. It is like mercy of Krishna is there because he has given us this association. Mercy of Krishna is there through the parampara it is coming. Guru, then there are lectures, there are talks, there is association, senior Vaishnavas are there, or our own other Madhyamadhikaris are there. Everybody is there to help us, but we just don't seem to recognize and then take their help. Even if somebody is trying to say something, we think it is not for me, it is for the others. And that's how foolish we can be. So, but then setting aside all of this, if we surrender and then completely give ourselves to the situation where we are in, which is the temple, the environment, and then try to associate more and more, then protection is definitely guaranteed. Then we will not end up like that monkey, like the monkeys who go back to the tree swinging. So this is, I mean, I mean, there are other things, but I think it'll come up as we move on with the verses. So I'll not dwell on those. So the whole main takeaway is just this, that we need to internalize these learnings and ensure that there is surrender. Even if our mind is saying the opposite. There is this wonderful analogy that His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj used to give. He says it is like a pilot flying a plane or a fighter plane. They are doing so much of acrobatics in the sky there, sometimes going up, down, steep fall, all of that they are doing. So what happens? The mind actually is confused. There is a situation where the mind doesn't know that whether you're going up or you're going down, I believe, especially when you break the speed barrier and all that, when there is free fall, etc., whatever. So what is the instruction that is given to the fighter pilots are that don't depend on what your mind is saying. I feel I'm going down, so let me go up. No, they say, look at the controls. If the control says you're losing altitude, like, I mean, as an example, that means you're going down. You might feel it's like you're going up, but then actually you're going down. So like that, because they might be upside down, all of these things will be happening. No, so the mind is like completely confused. So don't depend on the mind, just depend on the controls. So like that, when we are doing all our acrobatics in this material life, we should not depend on our mind in this way, but depend on the guidelines, on the controls, on what the charts are saying, on what is the rules that are given there. So there also the pilots have surrendered to the controls so that they keep themselves safe and come out successfully. In the same way, we will also have to depend on these things to come out. So on this, I'll just end here. If there are any comments or questions anybody has, please go ahead. Otherwise, we can conclude the session. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Dandas pranams.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you so much. Like, it was really like, you made us like think we have to be serious. And also like, I mean, the way you started with how this, all this conversation apparently looks to be very harsh, but it is very much required, especially for the Gruhasthas. And also like, like Parikshit Maharaj asking, why, I mean, about why we are coming back again and again, or why don't we continue even after realizing. So there with the example of like child and chocolate, you mentioned that we keep going back once we get recovered. Or sick person also, you have given the example. So they're like, we know like a dhira, who is the dhira and all those things, but still we are not able to practice to go there. And also why this is because of the power of the senses, because we are pulled back by them. And Parikshit Maharaj asking, is there any meaning to the Prayachita? And where Srila Prabhupada said that whatever atonement is not complete because it is like the elephants taking the bath. So that all there, like you mentioned that Parikshit Maharaj saying that, okay, we have to do the atonement with the full knowledge of Vedas, Prayachitam, Vimarshana. And also like not just also you mentioned that whatever Prayachita mentioned in the scriptures, those are just like to give the temporary relief, but those are also not complete, because one is that we are doing with the fruity mentality, and other one is we are doing without full knowledge of the Vedas, like everything is meant for Krishna. And also like you gave a nice definition of what is the austerity. So austerity means to willingly taking the some discomforts and for the right purpose. And then you mentioned about we need to we need to surrender to the guru for the right goal at the right time, I mean at the right place. So and for the right goal, obviously, so which is very much important. And then like nicely mentioned, okay, we start thinking, okay, let's do the small adjustments. But how the those small adjustments becoming the big deviation when we look back, or like after some time basically. So as long as we are in this body, so Maya keeps acting, and we have to be vigilant at every step. With the nice example of like a driver, even though he has expertise of 20 years without any accidents, but he cannot drive without closing the eye. I mean, he cannot drive with closing the eyes. So similarly, so we have to be very vigilant in our steps, because these are up. I mean, if we do any aparadha, that takes away very far from Krishna that we were earlier. So we have to be more vigilant, and we have to exercise the caution at every step. And then we have to be cautious as we are dealing with Maya every step, and not just like complete. I mean, completing the 16 rounds, following the regular principles. So at least to be there without degrading, but we should have the focused like Vaksatmaka Buddhi Eke Kurunandana. We have to be very focused on our goal without deviation. We cannot like thinking, okay, I have done so much, let me relax, but that is not going to work, because we'll be far from again the goal. So sadhana needs to be very strict, and also you mentioned that okay, we think that okay, because of our effort we are getting some things. No, it is because of the Krishna's mercy, and Krishna's mercy comes through all the devotees, through the lectures, guru, and we have to be in the mood of receiving. Sometimes we may think, okay, these are not meant for us, but no, those everything is meant for us. And then at the end, like you know, give the nice takeaway with the example of like how the fighter is always Jayapatasa Maharaj mentioning the example of fighter example, like how he depends on the controls, not on his mind. So similarly, we have to depend on the instructions of the guru and shastras, and we have to internalize these learnings and follow them very strictly, without in between getting into the mind, without involvement of the mind, basically. Thank you so much, Roji. Like it was really like maybe we have to go through once more to understand like or to start internalizing these learnings. Yes.
Yeah.
These lines are all yes, bro. You want to say something?
No, Prabhu. I was just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for summarizing it. Because I know I went all over the place, but then it was nice that you could summarize, so that will definitely help. Thank you so much for that.
All glories to Sri Guru.
Yeah, and then Prabhu, there's that thing about, I just wanted to add, I know we don't have much time, but quickly, that aspect that you touched upon where you said that we will, small deviations that keep happening, we try to make some adjustments. Sometimes it is like we just decide on our own. So one of the best things that I heard from my earlier mentor was that when such thoughts come to your mind, like, oh, they are saying this, maybe I will do this, like that you might think, because our mind also keeps working, in spite of accepting all this, still we might tomorrow get some instruction and we might want to tweak it a little bit. The best thing is to ask back and then take that. So thereby then it's not a decision you have taken. You have taken permission for that deviation or whatever. So that way, this small aspect it looks like, but then and then sometimes you might think it's so silly. Should I ask that? No, maybe I should not. But maybe if you feel a little silly in asking in front of everyone, maybe in private, and then say that, can I do that because it's a little difficult now? Then they are always very benevolent. They are very merciful. They will always say yes to it. And then they'll say, okay, do it for a month, you try this or something like that. So it becomes more like you're taking instructions still, even though there are some things that came to your mind which you thought you might tweak, but then it will. Or they might come across very strongly and say, no, don't do that. So, and then okay, I shouldn't think like this. So either way, the instructions has come from there. So that will help us. And this is what my mentor used to say. I thought I'll just share that. Thanks.
Yes, Roji, that is like very good, like asking or taking permission from the higher
No,
authority.
in fact, he used to insist on this permission every time. Like say, even let's say you are doing the service of doing Mangalarti. Of course, we take permission from the photo of the Guru and all that. But even before that, can we start? You look at whoever in the gathering, the senior, and then you just say, so can we start? And then they'll say, yeah, okay, and then start. So like that, so every step, can we start serving? We do that, but then let's do it consciously so that, we are not allowing our mind to play too much.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. So Gaurchandra Gopinath Prabhu mentioning, thank you for the wonderful class. Getting rid of another seems long process and difficult. Apart from focusing one at a time, focus on don'ts, any other shortcuts or tips to get rid of another's quickly and wholly. So this is the question, Prabhuji.
Oh, very loaded question. He knows the answer. So I know there are two things like anarthas are very serious. This is what I feel personally. I might be a little off here. So if we are saying we want a quick fix for the anarthas, it looks like we are expecting too much. Like say any shortcut to get rid of anarthas. Of course, there are shortcuts. Mercifully, they have said you take the dust of the lotus feet of the person on whom you have committed the anarthas. All those are there already. But then if we depend too much on the shortcut, then somewhere for me at least, in my mind, I might think, okay, I know what to do. And then even if an anartha happens, I know what to do, kind of an attitude might come in. So if I still continue with the aspect that anarthas are very, very strong and difficult, and then and then it's not, and then the process of coming out is very long drawn, then I think we'll be more careful. That's my view personally. So should we look at shortcuts in the first place? I mean, at least it depends on the individual. For me, I will not look at it because I know if I do that, then I know how my mind works. So it'll then make it a little more relaxed. And then it's okay. I know what to do. It's like this dangerous disease, what is that? Any disease you take, AIDS or whatever, and then you have a cure in your pocket, then you'll be that much more, what do you call, rash in your behavior, right? So unlike like how in COVID, there was no cure. So you see how people were so vigilant, like PP kids and this and that, so much of austerity they were taking because they respected that COVID so much. So in this way, anartha, if you have a comfortable, healthy respect to it, then we'll be more vigilant and careful. That's my take. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam. Excellent lecture. When you were telling class, when you are giving your lecture, I was just thinking about Indra. When Brahma comes and asks him to come back when he is in the form of a pig, he doesn't come back. As you said, I think Guru Maharaj's example was very nice, that we should have control. And also the association of devotees is very, very important. So we get the guidance. Thank you so much for the wonderful class, Prabhu. Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna, regarding this anarthas, so do we need to focus to get rid of the anarthas, Prabhuji, or like focus our completely energy on the positives, and then anarthas will go away automatically?
See, Prabhu, it is like anywhere we have to start. It's a circle. So if you break that circle, you can start from anywhere. This is what our acharyas, seniors have said. So focus on anarthas to go away. It will not happen. So we will have to develop Krishna consciousness. But then after we come in there, then there are certain anarthas which we realize by the mercy. Earlier we were not even realizing these are anarthas. Then we realize that. So once we are realizing there are anarthas, that means then it is a guide or an indication for us to focus a little bit on that. So we'll have to do both. It's not just one I'll do, the other one is taken care. So we'll have to spend some time to ensure that I'm aware of what are my anarthas, my limitations, the SWOT, or whatever you want to call it. So there are a lot of weaknesses. So we'll have to be aware of it. Otherwise, we will not do it in the way it has to be done. It will not be approved by our seniors, by the Guru or by Krishna. If we are not cognizant of these and then try to drive recklessly. We'll have to focus. A little bit of focus is needed. But it should not be so much that, oh, anartha, so I will not even take a step or I'll not even do anything. So that is extreme end. Generally, we tend to swing to the other side, like, the pendulum. So when I say like, oh, so much, like, there are certain, groups, where they focus so much on these don'ts that they forget the do's only. So we are not like that. We do both, like pravritti and nivritti. Both are necessary for us. So we'll have to give that. We'll have to do both.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavad Pranams. As a neophyte devotee, thanks very much for this wonderful class, Prabhu. So many points we have to learn, Prabhu. We are just in that step by step, baby steps we are putting, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
We can conclude.
Yes, Prabhu.
So I'm just seeking forgiveness from all the devotees, Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. In case if I have offended any of you knowingly, unknowingly, kindly forgive me. Or anything that I've said which is not out of place also, kindly forgive me. So all the good things are, I just try to repeat what I had heard. And if there's any gaps, then those gaps are mine. So on that note, Vancha kalpatrupyasya kripa sindhubhyavacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha anant koti vaishnavrind ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Sitanath Paramanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the very nice class with the wonderful practical examples. And thanks all devotees for being attentive. And again, we'll meet tomorrow at 7:15 a.m. Hare Krishna.
Hare